Hi guys, my name's Lindy and welcome to my channel. This video again was not the video I intended to bring out today. I've got another 2 or 3 apart from this one to do, but I'm going to launch into this one, which is a little light on twin flames. A little light on twin flames. Twin flames are woefully misused, hijacked terminology these days, and I think it was even way back when I was talking about it 10 years ago on YouTube. More or less 10 years ago, sort of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, in that window of time, I was talking about twin flame union and twin flames and saying how much that concept was being hijacked. I was bringing out videos like 50 Shades of Twin Flame and videos talking about the dark side of twin flames and how there'd been interference with the whole concept. And then I brought out more advanced material explaining how it was done and that there was various minefields within it. Trapping people in cycles of suffering, the Unrequited love program, the false light program, how black holes operate around the energy field and pull people into a gravitational pull of suffering. I was bringing out all sorts of material when it was considered like a crazy thing to do, you know, because it wasn't popular. I was going against what most people were saying, and saying that although it was a genuine phenomena, the twin flame unification template, the whole concept was genuine, that there was so much corruption and stuff within it. Not just human corruption within it, but I mean right up the top of the tree to malevolent extraterrestrial interference. I was bringing out YouTube videos on disruptor energies, multiple videos blowing the whistle on this and trying to bring relief and help to people. So there is that exists. It's a multi-million-pound industry. I remember saying this over 10 years ago on the radio in America, that there's big bucks in twin flames and things like that, which there is. I'm just painting the negative side first before I launch immediately into the positive side. There is all of that going on, and it's woefully misused. Myself and again Mel Brand from Gold Ray Twin Flames, God rest his soul, but Nicole is still out there and working for Gold Ray Twin Flames, both stated that this would become an overused word and people would be calling everything twin flames like they called everything soulmates. And that's exactly what happened. And now people are getting a bit tired of that word now, and they're starting to turn the other way, and there's a bit of a pushback on that terminology now, because it's been overused, and there's a lot of, there's been a lot of misuse of that, again, by human beings and by other energies. Anyway, that's the flip side of the coin, and that has been a reality and a fact for many years, which I pushed back on for many years. So now let's turn that to the other side of the coin and talk about throwing some light on the twin flame phenomena. So at the very top of our energy, at the very, very top of our energy, as high as we can go, not in our bodies, way beyond that, at the very top, at the very pinnacle, you could call it the Godhead. I don't really use that word so much, but right at the top, as high as your consciousness can go, into a mist, into an essence, there is a total interconnectedness of energy, of consciousness. And then if you drop that down, it comes down into not a more diluted form. Sorry, I've got a tickly nose. Not a more diluted form, but it comes down into another form. Then it kind of comes down into, I was going to say sheath bodies, but it comes down into a form where it drops into the vehicles, like it's like dropping into a car, your soul vehicles really, and it comes down into the form that you're taking, in this example, human form. twin flames are aspects of that same essence, aspects of that connected consciousness. And if you drop the equation down to a soul level, it's aspects of the same soul. So like this concept of the soul being split in half, I'm going to upset some people again here, and I just don't resonate with that. And I run a very strong unified template. I don't know why it's my destiny that I've run a lot of the template I run is more linked with the country of India. I don't know why, but I always crisscross with India and their concept of it. But there are disagreements between me and that concept. And what I have to say again is I'm not of the resonance with the soul splits in half. That is not any way that I've experienced it, and any way that I've experienced being another soul fractal that dropped into this body on the 19th of November. The way I prefer to describe it is the way I would describe twin flames again at the very top. Mist, essence, connected consciousness, all in the same melting pot, drops down into vehicles, in this case the human vehicle. But when it gets down, coming from, if I'm hesitating, I'm feeling into it, literally feeling into it as I'm saying it. And then coming from the same, I was going to say from the same flower, but this is really interesting how I'm going to put this, and this is coming through in lifetime. How I'm feeling into it lifetime is they actually come from the same pollinator or pollination and then pollinate two flowers. So what do I mean by that? Well, I haven't thought this through. It's literally coming through in lifetime from my heart, like all my videos do. The way I'm getting it is the consciousness then goes into two representations of flowers that actually come from the same pollination. Now, so I'm not getting it as one flower, that in the example of twin flames they come down and they're one flower living out different petals of it. I'm not getting it that way. I'm getting that your expression of your soul is the one flower and the multiple fractals of that flower on it. This is literally in lifetime, so like I say, this is not a preconceived idea. How I'm getting it is it's the same pollination, like a bee pollinating, but two expressions of a flower that come from the same pollinator. So for example, one flower being a rose, one flower being, I don't know, a geranium or a chrysanthemum or a daffodil or something else, but two expressions of the same pollination or the same connected consciousness expressing in two forms, but absolutely connected. And it's really interesting to me feeling into it, because this is in lifetime, so I'm putting out inquiries into it in my head, because I've got a very analytical mind, very big heart, strong heart, but very analytical mind, and I'm just feeling into it as I say that. So how it feels to me is the way I'm explaining it. So it's the soul expressing as two flowers, each flower having multiple fractals of the flower, but at the point of pollination and the connected consciousness the same, but they express as two different flowers. You could say, is that the same soul? It's too linear way of looking at it, actually. Well, you could, but that almost feels wrong for me to say it, because it's too linear way to say it. That feels too linear. I guess it's one way of explaining it, but they don't present. Why I'm pushing back against that a bit, because if it was once, the way of explaining it, I feel like saying that is incorrect, because then I would see it as one flower, the two being one flower. And we know nowadays that there isn't just an expression of two. You can have more expressions, unified expressions, than just two. I'm going to tackle that one in a minute. So how I'm getting it is the expression coming down into two flower expressions, which makes sense. You don't want all the same flowers in the garden, do you? You want the flowers presenting differently, so they have different life experiences, so they contribute to the soul as a whole and the consciousness as a whole. You don't want the same flower. What's the point in having tons of roses, tons of chrysanthemums, tons, I can't say that word, tons of daffodils? What's the point in that? You'd have different expressions of the same connected consciousness and different expressions of the soul. You would have different flowers in the soul's garden. That's the way that I'm getting it. So then we'll tackle the belief system of there can only be one, and only ever one. I'm going to tackle that head on. I did tackle it head on several years ago. I was one of the first out there doing this, I'm going to credit again with Goldway Twin Flames, Mel Brand, God rest his soul. And again, you can find Nicole out there on Goldway Twin Flames channel. We were one of the only ones tackling this head on and daring to speak up against a very powerful pushback, a very negative pushback, when all we're doing is looking out for people's interests and being honest and open and genuine, and saying that you can have more expressions of the flower. Think about it. Use your logic. Use your logic. If you've got expressions of the connected consciousness in one expression of a flower, another expression of a flower, why do you think it might be just limited to two flowers when there's a whole garden that can come from connected consciousness, that still comes from the overall pollinator and still comes from the overall pinnacle and the overall connected consciousness and the oversoul? You want just two flowers in the garden. So is it a rare thing to meet one twin flame, let alone more than one? Well, I was going to say it used to be rare, but I would actually say that it is still not that commonplace. But much of the movement forward in the unified consciousness has tipped over to the mass population. That's what I keep repeating on this channel. I'm going to tackle this head on while I'm at it as well. There seems to be a little bit of an elitism here, where people that come through that unified route, and I come through the unified route. I came through Twin Flame Union route in 2010. That was my road to the heart. That was my road to helping millions. That was my road to higher consciousness. That was the beginning of it in 2010. So I have got a place in my heart for it, because that was my road to it. That was my entry point to it. What I will say is there's a kind of elite attitude that twin flames are in a small elite club of people, and other people perhaps are beneath them or below them, and the mass population will never get to experience it. And it's absolutely untrue, because I'm on the front lines here, witnessing it for the last 20. Well, I've been on that route since 2010, but I've worked in this industry for 25 years now. And what I can tell you is many of the things that are common occurrences between connected consciousness, or what you would call twin flames, connecting up in physical reality, non-physical reality, in the various ways they can. They might be connecting via messaging, they might be connecting online, they might be connecting when one's in spirit or in a different dimension and one's here, they might be connecting personally. In the multiple ways that it can be done, that's also happening in the mass population now. And myself and Mel Brand predicted this and said, as an evolutionary step. We were talking about this back in 2014, 2015. This would happen, and it has happened, which is even more confusing because people feel that they're on the twin flame route, and they are half right. They're on a unified connected consciousness route, because every consciousness is connected at the higher levels anyway, whether it's an expression of your soul in a multiplication form, i.e. twin flame, or not. But another thing I will say here is it's an unmistakable expression of this consciousness when you come across it, and it's unusual to come across it in a, let's say, a more, how can I put it? It's more unusual to come across it in a divine form. It's usually a bit watered down. It could be different connections that are using that unified template. Or it can be what the numbers of categories I've called out before: ascensionary soulmates, matching consciousness, more conscious connection, all the different categories and ways that this can express. There's lots of the same signs are mimicked. I mean, there's videos out there saying this is certain classic signs of twin flames, and that's not true anymore, because the mass population are getting the same signs, and not everybody is expressing as the twin flame, because they're just not. And that's nothing to do with a belief system of mine. I'm just purely reading the energy. If I was reading it differently and seeing it differently showing up, then I would be saying it. But it isn't. But it's very similar, because it's an evolutionary step. Unification, unified 0 point state of balance, masculine, feminine energy, as above, so below, anchored, ground within the body, more conscious, more self-aware, going through a spiritual process, has tipped into the mass population. And that can be a little bit confusing for people. But does the twin flame phenomena exist in the form I've just described it? Absolutely it does. And I have seen evidence again of it just today in my work with the session, which has really prompted this video, because I did see it in the divine form, a form I have not seen for a long time, where I could read the whole way up the scale, way out of the human body, right to the very top of the connected consciousness, see, feel, sense the whole works, and drop all the way down again. And very much somebody of, let's say, the old school form of that, which I came from, the more traditional twin flame union, which was, say, one of the first people in the relay race. Then they handed the baton to a next wave that came along, then a next wave that came along. Each consecutive wave that came along getting it slightly easier than the wave before. Why? Because they're more conscious. Humanity is more conscious than they were way back in 2010, or way back in the 1990s or 1980s, or whenever it was, 1950s, 1960s, you know. Humanity has come in their consciousness a long way since then. So it is an absolute phenomena. It does exist. It is, at its heart, all about the heart. It's all about a raising of consciousness. It's all about connection with oneself, with the world, with the other, and others, multiple, because it can come in different expressions of the flower. Come back to the garden, come back to the flower. A flower doesn't have one petal, has multiple petals, but it's still the same flower. And there's huge pushback and resistance on that, usually by people trapped in their pain body that will absolutely not accept that is possible, but they absolutely get fixated in their own pain bodies and pain and suffering. And there's no judgment on it, because I went through all of that for 3 years. And I've helped a couple of, well, God knows how many people, 1,000 upon 1,000, to get through that process, that were trapped in their pain bodies there. Because again, that's a very common place to be trapped when you have that level of connection, and that connection is suddenly not with you, or not with you in the way that you wanted. But it's also the most hijacked template on earth. That unification template to ascension via the twin flame is the most hijacked one on earth, the most interfered with one on earth, because of it's a unification template. It's probably the most powerful one on earth in its pure form, not in the inverted form. not in the hijack form and all the misinformation form and all the rest of it form. In its purity, it is dormant within everybody, and different people can have the template activated without meeting a twin flame. It can be any kind of connection. These days, in 2024, we've evolved to the point where it can be any kind of connection that kicks off a unification process or accelerates it within somebody. They do not have to be a twin flame to do it. But do twin flames exist? Yes, they do, because I've lived it, seen it, witnessed it, felt it firsthand. Is there massive distortion within the lightworker industry about this subject? Absolutely, totally. This is not new, and there are great lengths that's being exposed now, and there's a pushback against the term even now because of that. But it is a real path to unification, but there is a lot of minefields. I mean, I did try on the YouTube channel to point these out. There's multiple videos on this. Like I said, the Unrequited Love Program, the Dark Side of Twin Flames, Disruptor Energies. There was one called the Hand, the Glove, and something else. I can't remember them all now. 50 Shades of Twin Flame. I was just really making myself hugely unpopular by sticking my neck out there, basically to try and help people, because I could see the suffering on the front line and on first hand. I'd been through it. I could see how somebody's life would be completely trashed by that process. Sometimes because they're coming into a higher state of consciousness, sometimes because they were pushing back against the inversion, sometimes because they were caught in the unrequited love process or in their pain body or in a cycle of suffering, sometimes in the belief that it was something very different, because again, you can get false twin flames, you can get the dark side mimicking, you can get predator connections. I mean, I brought videos out on all of these explaining how it worked. I think I brought one out called it was something to do with predator connections. I can't remember what it was now, but yeah, so it's an amazing thing. So for people genuinely going through that process, you're going to have to be very mindful where you genuinely go to source genuine help for that. I mean, again, I don't really look at videos on it because I like to keep my energy, how do we put it, I just like to keep it in its form that it's in and not go dipping into other people's material on the subjects I'm talking about, because then, apart from few exceptions, I like mine to come through like a pure channel, if you know what I mean, and not contaminated by other people's ideas. But sometimes my ideas might completely resonate with someone, and then I'll give them a shout out and on here and say, check out their work, check out their YouTube channel. And I still to this day think one of the most genuine information sources there was Mel Brand and Gold Ray Twin Flames, and now it's Nicole, because Mel passed into spirit, and it's Nicole from Gold Ray Twin Flames now. I still think that channel contains a wealth of material that is invaluable. It was almost like Mel was, ahead of his years there, and coming from a genuine space of genuinely loving people and trying to help them. And I still think that's one of the most genuine out there. There was, I liked Jill and Ramey's work. I haven't checked theirs out for a while. I had heard that I think, I don't know if I'm correct in this, but I'd heard that Jill wasn't very well or something, and hope she's okay. But I did used to watch their stuff and think that they were very genuine people and genuinely trying to help people. You can tell where they're coming from. I can't comment on other people out there. I haven't watched their stuff, haven't seen their stuff, haven't looked at that stuff for a long time. I just keep in my own unified energy, unless there are when I'm called upon to share that or collaborate with somebody on that. I'm actually doing an interview in a couple of weeks about twin flames on a I think YouTube, or I think it might be a TV channel, which I'll put up onto YouTube. I'm also doing a podcast next week in Australia for Australia. That one won't be about twin flames. I don't know what that'll be about. We're gonna amp it up basically, and the podcast is called Amp It Up, and we will just see what comes through with me and this lovely lady who's very shamanic and amazing powerhouse in her own right. And we'll just see what happens. So, you know, I work the energy space with people that it feels right to work the energy space with, and we take it from there. But it is an amazing process. It's a life-changing process, whether you're connected to a twin flame, whether you're connected to any of the other connections I just reeled off, whether you're connected to anybody nowadays. You know, your soul is pushing for you to go through a unification process, whether you're connected to a twin flame or not. Because the codes, if you like, have been handed down to people. Why? Because it's an ascension template. Twin flames were embodying and are embodying the ascension template to pass on, not to keep to themselves, but to pass on to the collective. It's an act of service template, and that's something I've talked about for 10 years now. But anyway, I hope you found that useful. I hope you found it food for thought. Well, I was going to say hopefully it didn't challenge your belief systems, but if it did, it did. And well, at this point in humanity, like I said, we're here to think out the box. We've graduated at this point. Former held belief systems and ideas, we have to be prepared to be challenged. I mean, I'm challenged on my belief systems and ideas every week, and usually I will shift on them because I'm not entrenched in any of them. It's like, okay, that feels right, that resonates. Actually, I think that's, you know, because every week the impossible is being proved possible. So on that note, I will love you and leave you, and wherever you are on your unification journey, however it is coming about for you, I wish you love, and I wish you true Christ light. Take care. Bye.